Hello my friends, Ed Phillips here. Thank you for watching. I've had a few people ask me about the paints I use, brushes, equipment, so I thought I'd give you a quick tour today. Here we go. First thing is an easel. Imagine that. And I have a really cool light that I got as a recommendation from a YouTube artist that I really enjoy because it gives me really good lighting over my painting. And this is a good easel. You can see I keep it extremely neat. Well, maybe not. Maybe pretty crazy. I have a stick that I use to prop up so I can put my hand here and paint without messing up wet paint on the canvas, or in this case a wood panel. I have all kinds of other little miscellaneous things that I use, and nice little spot for that. Use that to clean the palette because I use a glass palette, and you can see, we'll actually go over some of these paints in a minute, but nice glass palette. And then I have lots of brushes and rulers and various palettes that I use at any given time. A lot of these brushes are old. Actually, some of them go back to my mom, who used them for years and years and years. So it's kind of fun, a little bit of sentimentality there with those. And I'll show you, I also use this, my iPad, a lot because I can actually zoom in to different areas of photos, and I use a lot of photos for reference material. And in this case, you can see I'm using some of these sunflowers as a reference for this painting. Then I have a lot of various brands of oil paints. Interestingly enough, some of these, you can probably see by the tubes, go way back decades. Some go back to my mom, who knows when she bought those. And amazingly, oil paints stay good if they're still sealed for almost forever, I guess. You can see different brands that I have. So in case you haven't noticed, I'm not really hung up on a particular brand. I do like some brands better than others for certain applications, but other than that, I think there are some brands that I definitely stay away from, but for the most part, the artist level brands work really well. Here's a great example of a tube. I have no idea whose brand that is. It's almost on its last legs, but I've been using it for the last couple of years, and it's old. So now to the brushes that I use the most. These are some really cool brushes I just discovered within the last year from another YouTube artist. And these are called tree and texture brushes. And you can see they're angled and they're pretty rough, so you can put a lot of texture on quickly. And this one is a really cool brush too, I discovered recently, that is very interesting. It's what's called a filbert brush, which is flat on these two sides and then rounded on the top. But you can see they actually cut out little sections of it. So it's really good at kind of pixelating, putting on dots, leaves, brush, that type of thing. And here's another one that a great YouTube artist recommended, and I've really enjoyed this one. It's called a dagger striper. And you can put a lot of paint on, but you can also put like fine, like tall grass, that type of thing with this one. These are called blender brushes, and I use these quite a bit, not to put paint on the canvas or panel, but to blend it what's on there, some rough blending. And these are called filbert brushes, and really good at spreading a lot of paint around. And I also use these a whole lot for getting fine detail. These are called script or liner brushes, and I use these a lot. I used to, for years, had trouble because I thought that using the shorter Liner brushes would be the best thing to use for getting detail, but a YouTube artist recommended using a longer one, and I've discovered with a little practice that that's much better. So these are really great. I use these a lot for the fine detail. And then fan brushes, which I use to put on leaves or grass, a lot of detail that way too. Sometimes I use these for blending as well. And then for blending, I also use this one, just called a mop brush. And for getting really fine, like the sky in this one or the mist in the mountains, these brushes work great at doing that. Problem is with artists, this one's an artist brush, but so many of the artist brushes actually leave little hairs. You go through all the trouble of blending and then you discover there's this big hair on the canvas and wreck the blending to get it off. So a great YouTube artist, she really does great work. Recommended this makeup brush. So I don't use it for makeup, I use it for art. It's a great recommendation. And then this is a cool little tool, interesting. It's rubber with different angles that I use to correct a lot of the mistakes that I make, which I make a lot of mistakes. And I use this to scrape off the paint or maybe move it around a little more or just to create edges with it. Here's another tool I use a lot, pair of pliers, because so often the tops on these oil tubes will be very stuck and I got to use pliers to get them off. And then palette knives, which I use almost exclusively for blending paint on the palette, but a lot of artists use them to paint with instead of a brush. I've just never been very good at it. Maybe I haven't practiced enough. And then this is a medium which I use to help the oil paint to dry more quickly. A lot of oil paint takes weeks to dry, so this speeds it up dramatically, usually within about 24 hours or so. And it also thins down the paint because a lot of oil paint comes out very thick. And then lastly, paint thinner, odorless paint thinner, which I use, of course, quite a bit. Try to keep my brushes from getting worn out too fast. So that's the quick tour. I hope you found it interesting. What I didn't cover today was the acrylic paints that I use. I use acrylics primarily for blocking in the first layer of paint on a painting. Acrylics are water-based, so they dry more quickly, so I can get a lot more paint down more quickly. But acrylics have their limitations, which is why I usually end up putting oil over the top of the acrylic paint. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments section below. Also, please consider hitting the subscribe button, and if you like this video, hit the like button. I really, again, appreciate you watching. It's so good to see you. Hope to see you again soon. Have a wonderful day.